All right, so I'd like to present the final question of the broadcast. And this question reflects the organizing that we've been doing in the United States, leading into this week of action. Coming this week, we have days of action planned already in New Jersey, in the capitals, in Trenton, in Houston, Texas, in Boston, Massachusetts, in Sacramento, California. We'll be having days of action at those capitals in conjunction with a major dissent from the LaRouche PAC and our activists up and down the East Coast and from a few other places on Washington, D.C., on members of Congress. And this is intended not just as a quantitative increase, an increase in the number of activists, but a qualitative increase because of the depth of the crisis and also the depth of understanding that's being developed among our quantitatively increasing activist base. But this week already we had the unanimous consent to pass the Glass-Steagall resolution in the Alabama State House. There's going to be a big fight in the Senate, I believe, on Tuesday. So that fight is still not won, but it's certainly winnable in Alabama. In Louisiana, we had the introduction of the Glass-Steagall resolution, which brings the total number of states with resolutions introduced up to 18. And we're expanding our deployments across the country into more states where we currently do not have activity. So we can, again, expect that to expand. The voices calling for Glass-Steagall are bipartisan. They cross parties at every level of government and institutions that we're seeing. There was recently a press conference at the American Enterprise Institute with Ted Kaufman, former senator from Delaware, and the FDIC Vice Chairman Thomas Honig, who were both speaking specifically in the case of Kaufman about Glass-Steagall bank separation, and in the case of Thomas Honig, presenting a very clear-cut case of why we must have complete separation by function, not by size, and that unless steps are taken soon, a new bailout, a new financial crisis are inevitable. And in addition to that, the former head of the Office of Management and Budget, David Stockman, is continuing his book tour where he has previously and continues to call for a super Glass-Steagall bank separation. So as that continues, what we're getting from more from our activist base is major concerns about the future of the country, as they're acting to bring about a fundamental change in the way the United States economy is organized, bringing about a Glass-Steagall system. There are concerns about the future. Younger people asking, how am I going to get an education when I'm working an under-the-table job, when everything has been taken away from me? What can I do to fight for my own future? Older people expressing their concerns about their grandchildren. You know, older people with 4, 8, 12, 16 grandchildren. They're saying, what kind of future? How do I bring about a future for these grandchildren? So the fundamental question has been, what can I do? And we've taken to this theme in the organizing for this week of action that we are a city upon a hill, as the great John Winthrop said, as the great John F. Kennedy, another native-born of Massachusetts, well, Winthrop wasn't native-born, but quoted Winthrop saying in 1961 as he embarked on his presidency, we must always consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us. And in that speech, Kennedy continued, today the eyes of all people are truly upon us, and our governments, in every branch, at every level, national, state, and local, must be as a city upon a hill, constructed and inhabited by men aware of their great trust and their great responsibilities. So today, I can proudly report that the activities at the city level, the county level, the state level, and increasingly the federal level, we are getting this response that we shall be these individuals taking hold of this responsibility. But the question to pose to you, because you've recruited now multiple generations of a LaRouche organization, a LaRouche PAC organization, the question that you've gotten more times than I can even imagine: what do we do? How do we amplify our efforts? What do we need to know? What do we need to put into action? That's a question.
Very simple. I go back to a certain day, in a certain Sunday in New York City. At the time, we were about to go to war with Japan and other countries. And if you go back to that and know what I experienced at those moments, there was a certain shock effect in that Sunday morning. And then as the noontime approached and we went into the afternoon, there was a surge of mass voluntary recruitment to military service of the United States under this, what had happened in Hawaii. That the way this can happen, as in war, but not just in war, that there come times when a sudden shock tests the people for their ability to function and meet their responsibilities, not only to their own generation, but to coming generations. We, in my generation, did that, and then, on Pearl Harbor Day. We continued it. We won, despite the British ally. The British ally, Winston Churchill, kept postponing the decisive war on Europe, trying to bring up other kinds of diversionary wars and diversionary operations again and again and again. So what happened is the British kept stalling on the invasion of Europe, the Great Invasion, to wait until Franklin Roosevelt, who was dying, died. And we never had a chance, really, to express what our intention had been in war. Our intention had been to get the job done quickly and to save civilization. We did the first a little bit. We did that job. But we didn't do the job that Franklin Roosevelt had specified as the victory, which we had to secure for mankind. We're now again at the same point. Our people are desperate, more desperate than they were back in the times of Pearl Harbor incident. And what we have to do is recognize that in our people, there are a significant number of people who will respond with little urging, as many people responded in New York City and elsewhere on Pearl Harbor Day. And we must think of that not only for warfare, we must mobilize in that way now for the winning of a necessary peace, a peace of mankind based on Glass-Steagall.
Well, that brings a conclusion to our webcast. Your marching orders are available on the LaRouche PAC website under the National Call to Action, and I encourage everybody to study that and activate yourself to the maximum level with our marching orders for next week, the week of action for Glass-Steagall. I'd like to thank Leandra and Jason for joining me here in the studio today, and I'd like to thank you, Lynn, for being on with us from Europe. And we look forward to the opportunity to getting to do this again. So thank you very much, and stay tuned to LaRouche Pack TV.